But it's very interesting. Like when you were doing that show in Bombay, I I remember because you say bitches
Oh yeah.
and you can't
I
say
love
bitches
it.
in India.
I love it. I love saying bitch. I love is my favorite word in the English language.
Is it? What's the logic?
It's just fun to say, man, bitch. And it's also kind of like, I think so much of my point of view is not real. It's bullshit. It's like, this is, I have like a fraud, what's the imposter complex. And part of it is, feeds into this thing that like, I don't know what I really believe. All I know is when the masses are like yelling about something, I'm always like, you're so full of shit. It pushes me the other way. So I grew up in Texas, which is very Republican, whatever. So I was pretty liberal. And I was looking at these stupid Republican people like, y'all are just wrong. Y'all are idiots. What are you talking about? Then I moved to New York and LA and they're like stupid liberal people. And that pushed me more conservative. And I feel like the zeitgeist within entertainment is constantly being feminist and constantly being PC and constantly being this. And I see the flaws in that so glaringly that I'm like, I'm always kind of reacting to that. I'm always kind of reacting to the loudest voice, which I don't know what that maybe that means I don't really believe anything. But the point is, long story short, bitches is like, you're not supposed to say that in general. You're not supposed to call a woman a bitch. She's supposed to be this fucking heavenly angel floating on a cloud that you never say a bad thing about. Fuck that. I'm an engaged man. I love my fiance with all my heart. Bitch gets on my nerves sometimes. We can't find that space. So I think I started saying it more because of that. But then it just became such a fun word to say. Just, bitch, come on, bitch. Just leaning into it. Bitch.
Yeah.
I love it.
But it's like almost like reminds me of that Key and Peele sketch, you know, the one where they're
yeah.
and I said,
yes. Yeah, but I gotta say with my whole heart. I said, bitch.
but it's such an interesting thing, right? Because like now, what if we take the N word into consideration, right? Like I have this unpopular argument when it comes to the N word. Like sitting in India, whenever I heard that word, it had nothing to do with racism.
Yeah.
It was very fucking cool because it was rappers saying it.
Yeah, you have an interesting perspective on the N word. Yeah.
Yeah, so if somebody calls me an N-word, I'm just like, yeah, man, thanks, yeah. Like, it's like a cool, it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Unless it's a sand one, which I have been called a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Which is not as pleasant, because I know
it
that
could be
nobody
pretty cool,
calls...
though. You know what I mean? If you think about it, we're just a little sandy, like, maybe that's just cool, you know what I mean? Just a little browner, lighter.
But this is what, it brings me to two things, right? One is, the mechanics of using the N-word is very different from using bitch.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to understand how. And second, as Indian people growing up there, is it like I don't know if you felt this as well, but every Indian friend who grew up there, there's a intrinsic leaning towards black culture that also kind of comes along.
I think I am that way, but I think I'm more the exception than the rule. There's a lot of, actually it's probably about 50-50, and I think that comes from, in America, there's an American kind of white identity, and then black people have carved out their own identity because they had to. And then the rest of us don't, like, how do I act Indian? If you take away Hindi or your language, Gujarati, whatever it is, how do you act Indian, period? Like, even in India.
Yeah.
So when you're here, I don't know how to act Indian. Most of us, Koreans, Indians, whatever, we just kind of choose. We act white or we act black. And growing up in Texas, I think I had enough experiences that it wasn't like all the time, but it was enough that it impacted me in like a hurtful way of white people basically letting me know, hey, you're not us. So I think that pushed me more toward black culture and identifying with, because I was like, oh, if I'm not you, I must be these guys. And then whenever I lived around a lot of black people, they were like, yo, you're not us either. But, you know, at this point, it's kind of like it's been said, I guess.
And then what about the bitch and the N-word parallel, right?
I don't know. I just always knew the N-word to be incredibly hateful. Like, this is literally what you called slaves. That was the origin of the word. And then it stayed as a tool of actual oppression. Bitch, I didn't know to be that. I'm sure it just got used like motherfucker or whatever. To me, bitch is more like motherfucker, but it's a woman. Or bastard about a guy or whatever. It's not used in the same, like, incredibly horrific context as, not that women haven't gone through shit, but like, bitch wasn't a term, as far as I know, that you came up with in the time where we were just raping women all the time and beating the shit out of them or whatever. Bitch wasn't a term we used to hold them down back then. The N-word was. Like, You're a slave. You're gonna know you're a slave. This is the term that we're using for you because fuck you, you're a piece of shit. Bitch is like,
Right.
yo, this girl is being a fucking.
It's multi-purpose.
Yeah, and it's just you. This is a personality trait. It's not an intrinsic thing of who you are, and I just hate you for who you are. I don't know if I used intrinsic correctly, but I tried.
But no, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. Yeah. It's a behavioral quality as opposed to an intrinsic quality.
Yes.
That I think that's something that makes a lot of sense to me. I personally feel like I don't know anything. And I'm so slow to understand things that I like asking like a million questions. You know,
but
most
you
of the
also
time when I
didn't grow
form an
up-
opinion.
Yeah, sorry, but to defend you, as I'm going to do as you're Andrew, you didn't grow up in America. If you grew up in America, I promise you would get it. You'd be like, oh, you would ask questions still maybe because that's your mind. You're an inquisitive person, but you'd be like, okay, yeah, I get it. Because you'd seen it. It's been used against me racially because, especially when I grew up, people didn't know what Indians were. So,
Yeah.
and I was like, yo, that was fucking hurtful, man. Wow. And so I understand even a little bit more how pointedly that word is used.
Yeah, I got called like, dude, I got called like N-word thrice in like the span of 4 minutes. And I was just like, how did all of this? Because it was fine like for the first week, and then suddenly the most fun racist people though are in England.
Really?
Because it's like they have this, they're almost scared of you. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're like, I was walking through the English countryside, so to speak, and I was just walking down the street. I guess that town doesn't have a lot of brown people. I don't know,
Right.
but that lady just kind of like crossed the road and started walking on the opposite side of the road.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
she
they'll
wouldn't
do
have-
that here too.
And I was, and I felt kind of like a power trip, dude. Like, I was like, yeah, man. Like, I can get used to this. Like,
That's
when
how
I
you
get
know
out of the
it's
way
just
from me.
racist. If somebody's scared of you or me, like you're just racist. There's no way
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
imposing physically.